What's up, guys, and welcome back to this week's edition of Cover One. It's the area round of the playoffs. We got all of the best matchups for y'all happening in and around the Concho Valley, and of course, we do have some games that have already taken place. Again, I am Ryan Chadwick, and joining me is my co-host Paul Harris.
What's up, Ryan?
James Bellini is out this week. The poor guy's got some COVID, but we will get right into all these games after these messages from Angelo MRI.
Ever needed an MRI? Do you know someone that needs an MRI? And did you know that you have a choice? When your doctor orders an MRI, tell them that you choose Angelo MRI. The founders of Angelo MRI started Angelo MRI when they faced the high cost of MRIs from traditional medical facilities. That's why Angelo MRI offers a better way. A high-quality MRI for just $5.95. And Angelo MRI accepts all insurance, saving you time and money. It's your health, your money, and your choice. Angelo MRI, 4114 South Jackson in San Angelo, or look them up at angelomri.com. Remember, when your doctor orders an MRI, tell them that you choose Angelo MRI.
All right, Paul, area round of the playoffs, man. Last week we had some big winners, and unfortunately, mostly in our 4A and 2A division, we had some big losers too. But specifically, let's talk about our 6A matchup. We got the Central Bobcats. They take on the number one in 6A, South Lake Carroll Dragons. That game's going to be in Stephenville tonight. I will be there for that game. But before we get into that one, let's talk about this one for a little bit. Central finished 1-9 2 years ago, right? Barely missed the playoffs. Just missed the playoffs last year, and then this year they've kind of put together a string of wins near the end of district, including that big win over Friendship to get into the playoffs. In that playoff game, beat El Paso Pebble Hills in a real drag down slugfest. Like, what did you think about that?
Well, I think first of all, it just shows how far the Bobcats defense has come. For them to hold a team to 14, and then of course they were coming off that great second half performance versus Friendship. Probably the best of defenses played all year to hold down an offense like that, and it just rolled right into the playoffs. So really it's what Coach Smith wanted, to have the offensive line and the running game do what they did, and then the defense, be able to hold them in check. And then, of course, Jimmy Edwards, that they got such a dangerous passing game as well. So really just seeing the best of the Bobcats now with this 4-game winning streak that they got going.
And unfortunately for the Bobcats, luck of the draw was not on their side this time. They run up against the South Lake Carroll Dragons, who are favored to win 6A. In the state championship this year. South Lake Carroll actually lost this game, the title game last year, so the Dragons are looking for a little bit of revenge. But they come up against the Bobcats, and David versus Goliath, man, I don't know exactly how else to put it. Like, I'm not saying that there's no chance the Bobcats win this game, because that's why we played the game.
Right.
Like, it's any given Sunday type thing. But it is going to be a very tough matchup for the Bobcats. South Lake Carroll has a bunch of D1 committed athletes already, including a receiver that's committed to Ohio State, quarterback that's committed to Pitt, a couple guys in their defense committed to go play at the next level as well. And they like to pass the ball. Quarterback has, I think like 3,700 yards passing this year or something like that, something crazy. And I do know that Central hasn't been the best when a team really airs it out against them. But it's going to come down to, how well their defensive line plays against that offensive line, see if they can get after the quarterback a little bit. And, guys, just don't get beat over the top. I'm sure there's schemes in place to keep those two high safeties no matter what. But offensively, what do the Bobcats need to do to score?
Well, they do have a good offense. If they can grind out the clock, get Zay Johnson, doing what he does, and number one, just absolutely cannot turn the ball over.
Yes.
But to me, they got nothing to lose because they're such a big underdog. And, when you get the second round, you're going to get a DFW team, and it's going to be tough. It's unfortunate that it's got to be the number one team in the state. But, Central, like you said, has come so far from that 1-9 season 2 years ago. They got nothing to lose. Just go out there and play your best ball game and try to stay with them as much as you can. It's South Lake Carroll. I think they're a top 10 nationally as well. So just go out there and try to represent the best you can. And they do have some things that could keep them in it, like I was talking about the running game, that offensive line, and Colton Hill and Jimmy Edwards. Those are two really good receivers, So if they can go out there and not turn the ball over and just keep it close, who knows what could happen,
Yeah. So that game is going to be at 7:00 in Stephenville at Art Briles Stadium. But yeah, let's go Bobcats. So let's see y'all put up a good fight. And hey, you know what? You never know. Get a couple turnovers early. Start grinding that clock down, and we'll see. But before we get into the rest of our matchups, let's hear a quick word from Kicking Cuts.
Looking for a fresh cut without breaking the bank? Well, Kicking Cuts is now open at 4238 Sherwood Way. Haircuts start at $19 for kids and $22 for adults. They offer hot towels, beard detailings, multiple discounts, and they also sell hard-to-find hair care products. Kicking Cuts is locally owned, and they're ready to get you looking sharp at an affordable price. Kicking Cuts, located at 4238 Sherwood Way in San Angelo.
Next up, we got some 3A action. Now, this game already happened. The Wall Hawks defeated Childress last night by a score of 55-0. Wall claimed another shutout. That game was up there in Snyder. Let's just get into it, man. I know we got some highlights rolling, but this game was never close. The second or third play of the game, a bad snap went off Childress' quarterback's face, and Wall dove on it, right? One play later, Reed Robertson scores. So that was just kind of the theme of the night. The second drive, Hagen Barbie comes unblocked off the edge, sacks the Childress quarterback, another fumble. 4 or 5 plays later, and now we got Brady Neal running to the end zone, right? 9 minutes, not more than 9 minutes to go in the game. It was 9:17 or something like that. Hawks already up 13-0. So in that situation, what do you do as Childress?
Poor Childress. I mean, Wall's defense is so dang good, and so that's the nightmare scenario to go out there and have 2 turnovers like that. You're already a huge underdog, but
right.
Wall's defense has done it to everybody this year. So
yeah.
I knew they were a big favorite, but they left no doubt.
Right. Yeah, and then so that the rest of the first half turned into several Childress punts and then several more Wall Hawk touchdowns. Took a 33-0 lead into that second half. Childress showed a little bit of fight. They came out of the second half. They kicked an onside kick and actually got it. Unfortunately, one play later, they threw a pick to Levi King. So that one set up another quick touchdown. Wall forces another punt, and we got to see probably what was the play of the game. When you think Landon York, do you think of him running the ball?
And I don't know that he hardly had any rushing yards last year,
Well, on this particular play, he fakes a handoff, pulls it out of the running back's belly, takes off to the right side of the line, and goes 87 yards to the house. It was the best Childress had done pinning Wall deep all night, right? It was a beautiful punt. They had it at, I think the drive started at the 11-yard line, right? They run one play, get to the 17, and then York does that, or to the 13, I mean. And then York goes 87 yards. So I talked to him after the game, and he was laughing. I was like, I didn't even think you had speed like that. And he goes, I can run. They just don't let me, So overall, incredible game by the Wall Hawks. Anytime you get a shutout, especially if you get a shutout in the playoffs, that's a big accomplishment for your defense. And then, honestly, man, Wall didn't even need to score in that second half. They ended up scoring 17. Got a little practice with their field goal kicking as well from Klein Smith. He had the opportunity to kick a field goal because I think it was 47-0 before that kickoff. And so it was fourth quarter at that point. All the backups got in. We got to see some guys without Hawks on their helmets on that JV in there too. But excuse me, I don't know where my voice is going. But Wall advances with the win. They play Slayton next week in Sweetwater, next Friday at 1 o'clock. So fans out there, we already got confirmation from Coach Slaughter on that. Slayton actually had to come from behind and beat Merkel in the final 20 seconds. They won that game 43-27. So congrats to Slayton, but unfortunately, kind of like Central, now you got the Wall Hawks. Moving on, we have another 3A team, Great Creek versus Idalou, man. Of course, Great Creek won their first ever playoff matchup last week. Paul, do they have a chance this week against Idalou?
I think they have a chance. They're clearly the underdog. Great Creek program's never been to the second round, so this is uncharted territory for them, and Idalou is a tradition-rich program. They've had a lot of good playoff runs in the last decade or two, and Idalou has played Wall closer than anybody has played them this year. They only lost by 14 to Wall. That being said, I just feel like Grape Creek, I love the running game, what they're able to do with that. It can grind out the clock. Darrell West is an impact player. He's one of the best running backs in the Concho Valley, and they got a good defense. So, I think if any team could give Idalou some trouble, it'd be a team like Grape Creek, So I think they've got a chance, and excitement's at an all-time high there. They've got a great coaching staff that's been there a long time. So, Grape Creek, kind of like Central, they got nothing to lose. They've already accomplished a special thing this year, and so let's see what they can do. I think that they have the capability to keep it close and maybe pull off an upset.
Well, and this goes to show you how important getting the second seed is versus getting the third seed is. Maybe you don't play Idalou second round,
Right.
But I do think that Great Creek has a shot if they don't turn the ball over and they get some push on their offensive line. But man, Idalou was with him 14 a wall at one point this year. I have Idalou versus Canadian as what's going to be a really good game. But I mean,
right.
I'm pulling for the Eagles, and I hope they bring home a victory. Moving on to 2A, we're going to go Division 1 first. We got Mason versus Schulenburg. Now, the Mason Punchers had a very interesting start to the beginning of the season. They switched over to the spread. They kind of started off slow. People were wondering, like, is this Mason team still it? Ended up winning their district championship and only lost those first 2 or 3 games, and that's it. They're on like a 7-game win streak right now.
Right.
Playing the Schulenburg team. What do you know, Paul?
So Schulenburg is 6-5, I believe, and it's kind of misleading. They've had 2 overtime losses. All the teams they've lost to are 8-win teams, I think, except for one of them. They lost 42-20 to Ganado. I mean, that says a lot. Just being in the ballpark with Ganado. So I think it's a pretty solid team, even though they're just a 6-win team. I really think this is kind of a toss-up. Mason, like you said, has played so well. They've only allowed 5 points a game during this 7-game winning streak. So the early losses to Wall, Junction, Brady, those are all good teams. And Mason's really come on down the stretch, So, defense has kind of been their calling card for a long time. They've got all those great athletes out there. It just kind of took a little while to come together because they had such a big hit from graduation, new coaching staff, new offense. But, I think this is, of all the games in the playoffs that we got this week, I think this is going to be the closest one. I think it's kind of the biggest toss-up we got.
Mm-hmm. And then moving on to the edge of the Concho Valley down there, we got Junction versus Fall City. Now, this Junction team played incredible last year. Went further than almost any other team in Junction history. This year, I would argue they're even better.
Yeah.
They go up against Fall City. What do you think, Paul?
Well, it's a rematch from last year in the playoffs, and it's a rematch from earlier this season. Both times, Junction won big by more than 20 each time. And, though Fall City is just a couple years removed from being in a state championship, and they got all that tradition, this is a really special Junction team right now. I just don't feel like Fall City is going to be able to handle them, and I don't think that Junction is going to run into much resistance until they see Shiner in the regional championship.
Which is going to be a great game in itself if Junction takes care of business. All right, moving on to 6-man. We got 1A Division 1. Got a bunch of Concho Valley schools still in this one. We got Robert Lee versus Valley. Of course, Robert Lee 45, their opponent last week. Is Valley going to put up much more of a fight?
I think they might. Robert Lee, again, we've had some drought busters. Robert Lee won its first playoff game in 13 years last week. Of course, they were close last year. We knew they were going to be a great team. They almost beat Westbrook in that crazy 116 to 110 game last year, But the only team they've lost to all year is Water Valley. And, man, they looked really, really good last week. The defense forcing 5 turnovers. The offense led by Brenner Sherwood. So Valley started off the year, interestingly, 0-6, 0-5 or 0-6. And just a loaded schedule with Gordon and Jayton and some of the best 6-man teams you're going to see in Texas. And then they've been on a roll ever since, So, again, the record a bit misleading. They're as battle-tested as you can be. But I just feel like Robert Lee is going to win another game, and we're going to get set up with that huge district rival, Water Valley, that we've been looking all year towards possibly them meeting in the regional championship. And I think that's where we're headed.
Speaking of Water Valley versus Newcastle, Water Valley got a 45-point win last week. I don't see that changing against Newcastle. No shade to Newcastle, but that's how good Water Valley is this year.
Right. Water Valley kind of got the tougher draw. I feel like Newcastle's the team that's ranked in the top 10 in the state, and they've had some good playoff tradition recently. But yeah, I don't think Water Valley's showing any signs of slowing down.
Mm-hmm. And then finally, Paul, we know this was going to happen. Menard's had an incredible year. Biggest surprise to me in six-man, honestly, has been how well Menard has played this year. But they go up against two-time defending champion Gordon.
Right. So, we got 2 undefeated teams, Gordon number 1, Menard number 7, and yet Gordon is just an absolute runaway favorite.
Yeah.
They've won 40 in a row. They've won every single game during this winning streak by 33 or more, and that was against an 11-man team. So, best of luck to Menard, like you said, great season, 11-0. But man, what a tough draw to get Gordon. This Menard team deserves a chance to win another playoff game, and I just don't think that they're going to have a whole lot of a shot. But we'll see what they can do.
Well, and it's crazy to think about too. As good as Menard is, I think the Bobcats have a better chance of taking down the Dragons than Menard does taking down Gordon.
Yeah, Gordon's got possibly 3 D1 players on that team.
I honestly think this Gordon team might be one of the best 1A teams there's ever been.
Yeah, I think they're going to be in that conversation with the great dynasties we've ever seen.
Yeah. But moving on to 1A Division 2, way out on the edge of the Concho Valley, we got Richland Springs. They're playing a program with some pretty good history in Zephyr. They've known to have some good football teams. Is it going to be enough to take down Richland Springs, though?
I don't think so. Richland Springs, they got 45 by Gordon first game of the year, which just shows how good Gordon is because Richland Springs has not lost since. They got the big win over May. They haven't really been tested ever since then. Fairly weak schedule. They rolled past Calvert last week, and Zephyr's a 1-loss team just like Richland Springs. They're not too far away from each other, so they've met numerous times throughout the years. Richland Springs had the better of it the last couple of decades, but they're meeting in San Sab at the Graveyard, great setting there. I think it could be a decent game, but I think Richland Springs is the favorite.
I hope so. But let's see. All right, before we get into Player of the Week, let's hear a quick word from Shelburne Financial.
At Shelburne Financial, you are more than just a number. They will help you plan for retirement, prepare tax documents, and more. Whether you're looking to grow your savings or plan for your future, the experienced team at Shelburne Financial is here to help you and guide you every step of the way. Give them a call at 944-9447 or head over to 3177 Executive Drive and invest in your future.
All right, welcome back. Let's get into our Players of the Week. And I say players because we have 2 of them. 2 outstanding performances we couldn't pick. First off, Great Creek Eagles running back Darrell West. Of course, the Eagles beat Crane last week to claim the first playoff victory, first playoff trophy in program history. It was a really big deal. The Eagles have had that long time coming, and with the amount of work ethic all those guys put in and how they've bought in and they play together, they truly deserved it. And again, they play Idalou tonight. But Darrell West had 22 carries, 185 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And that might seem lower than some of his more eye-popping games this year, but I do think that you had the added pressure of it being in the playoffs, and that team sat squarely on his shoulders to kind of carry that offensive burden to get them to that first win. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he makes the engine, go for them. He gives them that home run hitting ability. And so, like you said, he had the 3 200-yard games during district play, so this is nothing new for him to have a big game like this. And, yeah, with the moment, too, he really rose to the occasion for him.
Right, and then co-player of the week, we have Robert Lee's Brenner Sherwood. He had 18 carries, 129 yards, and a touchdown. Went 9 of 15 passing for 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then, of course, it's 6-man, so he also plays defense. He had 2 picks and a fumble recovery, but most importantly, an untimed down 80-yard pick 6 to end the first half. Paul, first off, give me your overall thoughts, but walk me through that play there at the end of the first half.
Yeah, so Robert Lee had a pass interference in the end zone, so Ira gets an untimed down at the 2-yard line, and I'm sitting there, in the back of the end zone ready to possibly see an Ira touchdown, and instead, they try to do a quick pass. Sherwood jumps it, picks it off at the goal line, and goes 80 yards the other way, so all I have is him just running far away from me, in my clip. But
what a momentum swing.
But yeah, so Ira had a chance to get within 2 touchdowns at halftime. And this is a number 10 team in the state, Ira, so it was a game that could be close. They could have changed everything, and instead it's suddenly a 30-point game at halftime. Instead of 16, it's 30. So about as big a momentum swing as I've ever seen, and so it just shows you how dangerous Sherwood is. You think about him, on offense and everything he does on offense, but great player all around.
Yeah, congratulations to both of those guys, and good luck in your playoff matchups this weekend. Before we head into our college football segment, let's hear a quick word from the ArcLight.
Catch all the collegiate and pro football action at the ArcLight Bar and Grill, located at 441 Rio Concho Drive, inside the Clarion Hotel in downtown San Angelo.
All right, James isn't here to say it, so I guess I'll honor his memory a little bit. Time for my favorite segment, or something. I don't know. Let's get into some college football. Of course, San Angelo State Rams season is at an end after their loss to West Texas A&M last week. By the way, that dude was out when he caught that final touchdown pass. It was clear as day. 3/4 of his foot is on that line in the end zone. Talked to Coach Gersh. He was not happy about it, but at the same time, it shouldn't have been that close in the first place. But come on, Division II, be better.
Those Canyon refs.
Yeah, but seriously though, if it's that blatant, why isn't there instant replay in Division II yet?
Right.
I don't know. It was awful. But anyway, so the Rams finish with kind of a disappointing record, 6-5. I know that's and it just speaks to how incredible the standard here is in San Angelo, and how high of a standard that Coach Gersh keeps. The Rams will be back. I have no doubt in that. They had the injury bug all season, kind of plagued them. I don't know, man. If you're the coaches and you're and with the transfer portal, what it is, what do you say to these guys to make sure that they buy in for another year?
I don't know. The transfer portal kind of changes everything, and with Braden Fuller transferring away now, I know they've got an exciting quarterback in Caden Smith who was splitting reps with Fuller down the stretch, but that's tough, to get them to buy in and want to stay here and want to help build that up, and especially when you have a season with so much potential that kind of fell apart down the stretch. You worry about that, or with a quarterback like Fuller. I mean, he comes in as the LSC preseason offensive player of the year. Certainly didn't envision him, transferring out of here. So I don't know what all went into that decision, but hopefully, they've had a great thing going. Hopefully, they can kind of
Yeah,
keep
I
it
will
going.
say I did hear that there might be a couple of D1 guys looking at him. So if that's the case, then good for him.
Yeah, best of luck to him.
Definite stepping stone there. But I do want to say most of the Rams' injuries were on defense, and that was very evident. And there was a lot of young guys in there. The Rams aren't used to giving up more than 15 points a game most of the time. I think they averaged giving up 30 points a game this year, and so it was obvious, but. I know Coach Gersh will get them right, so let's see the Rams improve onto next year. On to D1 football, Arkansas travels to Darrell K. Royal to play the number 17 Texas Longhorns. At this point, Texas is going to need a couple of miracles back to back to get into the playoff. They're already not making the SEC championship, but if they want a chance to make the playoff, they got to beat the Razorbacks. The Razorbacks have had a horribly disappointing year. They're a team that not only lost their head coach at this point, but at one point was 0-6 in the SEC. I don't think that Texas loses this game, but I don't know. I don't know what Longhorns team I'm going to get. Because, again, in that Georgia game, it seemed like Texas was finding a little bit of momentum until that onside kick in the second half. You just saw the light die in all the eyes of the sideline, and so I don't know what to say about the Longhorns. Paul, they're your team, man. Give me a positive.
I don't want to talk about the Longhorns, man. Yeah, hopefully they can beat A&M, and ruin their season possibly.
Right.
But yeah, it's been a tough year, man, to start off number 1 in the nation and to be in this spot now.
Yeah,
it's disappointing. They kind of climbed back into it, but I kind of knew all along the trip to Georgia would probably bury the poor Horns.
Be the final nail in the coffin there. All right, well, let's move on to the actual best 2 teams in Texas now.
I can't dispute it.
I'm sorry, man.
Okay.
I have to do a shot. But the SEC is doing what the SEC does and scheduling cupcakes at the end of the year for some reason. Samford plays number 3 Texas A&M. Samford's not at the level of competitor the Aggies need to play. If they don't win by 70, I don't know what the Aggies are doing. Especially after last week, went down 30-3.
That was crazy, that comeback, man.
Against South Carolina, and then that second half just exploded, man. Marcel Reed, it's funny because he pulled himself out of the Heisman conversation with that wretched performance in the first half, and then immediately wrote himself back into the Heisman conversation how incredible of a second half he had. I'll say it time and time again, and I've said it all year. The Aggies play down to whoever they're playing, and I don't know why. I don't know why they can't start dominant and finish dominant and say we are better than you, because they are. They clearly have better athletes. They have better coaches than most teams in the nation. They just don't play like it in the first half, and I don't know why. They did the same thing against Notre Dame. They did the same thing against LSU, and then in South Carolina last week. So I mean, it's Samford, guys. Just win 70-0. Okay. All right, and then finally moving on. Number 5, Texas Tech is off this week, but they did have a huge 48-9 win over UCF last week. Fixed some red zone issues. I think technically they finished 5 for 6 in the red zone, which was everyone's gripe, but it's because we kneeled it out.
Oh, Lord. That didn't count.
But you would be surprised. There were some people who were mad that we didn't score that final touchdown to keep it perfect. So that was the playoff committee's biggest issue with us, is not being able to score touchdowns in the red zone. But I think we went 4 for 5 on touchdowns, so we kicked 1 field goal. But that's because we only made it to the 19 before we got sacked, so it wasn't really in the red zone.
When you got a defense like that, though, too, you don't have to be too aggressive, I mean.
Well, I know, and 9 points, and technically 2 of those points was a safety. And but I will say UCF did score 7 points against the Texas Tech backup, so good for the Golden Knights. Texas Tech has one final game next week in the regular season against West Virginia in Morgantown. I swear, guys, if you drop this one, I will cry. Have one of the best seasons in school history. Do not do that to me. I need this, all right? But other than that, that is the college football segment. Final thoughts, Paul?
Well, I guess I'll just quickly acknowledge 2 seasons that came to an end last week with Lakeview and Ozona. I got to cover most of Lakeview's games. Winning a season in 29 years, a lot of fun to watch them. They showed a lot of heart. Even when they were down, so just an awesome year. Going to be sad to see a bunch of those seniors leave. Mm-hmm. They do have Chris Alviso coming back, and some other exciting guys. Connor Williams on defense, and then Ozona. I mean, what a season they had to go 10-0 for the first time in 23 years. And man, Christian Villarreal's record chase, that was so much fun to keep track of that. And I hated to see that end. I was hoping that they could to get into the second round of the playoffs and give them an actual chance. But both those teams, what a season they had, and so. Sad to see those have to end.
Yeah, and I will be a little bit more upbeat on that. I'll talk about the teams that are still in it. I want to see good performance from all our favorites, man. But like Great Creek and Central and Menard, like y'all are dealt some pretty rough hands this week. But hey, guys, just go out there. Play the game. It's why like you could talk about point spreads and who's the favorite and like who deserves to be there and who doesn't be and whatnot, but just go play the game. If you don't turn the ball over, you already give yourself your best chance to win. If you don't commit any dumb penalties, you already given yourself an even better chance to win. Just go play your game. Like even if some of these guys don't win this week, you've already had incredibly successful seasons. You're in the second round of the playoffs. Just go have fun. Like these are memories that will last an actual lifetime. I'm still in my 30s, and I still remember what I did when I was playing, football at Central, and we weren't even good my senior year, So go out there, have some fun, and you never know. Bobcats, go upset the Dragons. That's Cover 1, guys. Thanks for tuning in.